Let's add our progress bar widget to our JiGui library. Hello everyone, this is Ali Reza. Welcome to the Mentor Code Lab. As you see, I changed the LED lights or alarm lights, whatever you call them. And I'm not sure if you can see that FPS behind the GUI or not. It's just 117, 118. So all this animation is not doing even a single frame rate drop. I have the lights, and this is our gradient, solid color, and textured indicators, horizontally and vertically, top to bottom, bottom to top, right to left, left to right. All of them are working and functional. My textures for different types of input output slots for crafting or anything else is ready. And I have different types of slots, different types of toggle buttons. Of course, these are solid textures right now. I didn't use the toggle button yet. I just want to make sure that textures are looking correct. And then I have progress. Now this is where we will start working today. To make a progress bar, we actually had done almost all the job in our colored indicator widget. However, instead of drawing a solid color like the fill, we will want to draw two textures. Lots of it will be copy pasting. Let's start with adding our class, calling it progress bar widget. Now progress bar widget will have almost all of these. So let's add them. Now instead of colors, I don't have the color and I will not have the width and height. I will have the orientation. I will have the direction, the supplier for amount and capacity, and the suffix. Well, we don't have suffix there. However, different things will come from the indicator widget because now we will have these background and indicators. So let's get them, and actually from top we will have X and Y and the width and height. Again, we will have a public static class builder, and here we want the constructor. So I will have a constructor that accepts everything, and let's break it down. So the direction, and then the integers for background, the integers for the indicator, two integers for the background U and V, two integers for the indicator U and V, and then X and Y, I will move it to the top before anything else. Then we have the background size, width and height here. And then we have this orientation. I will take it and move it all the way up here. I will break it down. The reason I'm doing code reformatting here is that when I go into the builder and I want to replace things, or if I want to use different things, I have an easier way of understanding what's going on. So everything became yellow instead of red, means that we have assigned everything possible. Then instead of going into the render for time being or any of the overrides, we have this draw tooltip. Now tooltip is not something that we want on a progress arrow bar. However, now we have these. So for the builder, I will just take this whole thing and go into the builder, paste, and of course they are not final anymore. Then we will have a constructor that only accepts X and Y, like so. And as always, let's start with what we have inside here for the indicator widget. Now we don't have suffix or fill rect. We don't have colors. We have the amount supplier and capacity supplier. We have the orientation and direction. Okay. The rest comes from here. Go to the builder. We have the background texture, indicator texture, the textures, background rect, indicator rect, background texture, indicator texture. Copy them, paste them here. Now what's the problem here? Background texture, create field. Did I miss that one? Yeah, I totally missed that one. So let's see. We have identifiers both on top and here inside the builder. Inside builder, they are not final, and I need to add them to the constructor here before the suppliers. And what's wrong with you? Oh, I forgot to assign. So, and you notice that I don't have code compilation because I disabled Copilot. It's really becoming laggy on my computer. So background texture equals to the background texture. This dot indicator texture equals to indicator texture. And now it should be happy on top. It should be happy on the builder. Now let's see what else do we have on the builder. We don't have the energy here. It's a progress bar. I have something else. I need to assign if it's small or not. And I will say public builder use small progress. And then we have public builder use big progress, or I don't know, small and big. I don't know. Use a small progress. I can use a boolean here. So a boolean flag. We will say if flag. So if we are using a small progress bars, we want to return this dot textures, and here I will have different things. I can't go easy on this. If you are using the small, then we want to check if the direction equals to widget directions dot top to bottom. We want to check different things here. So we go with if the orientation equals to widget orientation dot vertical. We want to do things there. Here we say else if, actually top to bottom, let's reverse the order here. So if we are vertical, we go with top to bottom or bottom to top. If we are horizontal, the default behavior would be from left to right. That's at least how vanilla is working. So normally in vanilla, you have progress from top to bottom and left to right. So I will copy the whole thing from here, return this at the end, because before this, we have to return in multiple cases. We are vertical, we are top to bottom. So we say if we are flag, means that we are using a small, we say return this dot textures. And here we want to assign different textures. Now, different textures are inside our progress bar texture. And as you see, I have this arrow thing. Actually, let's rename it use arrow progress. And let's change this flag to is small or use a small. I don't know, use a small arrows. That's a better naming, because we can have different progress textures. As you can see, we can have blaze fuel, bubbles, arrows. Now, tube and fire are just vertical. So we just have short and tall for the tube, and fire is just one texture, and things will change. So for arrows, if I'm short, so if I'm using the small arrows and we are top to bottom, let me close these. If we are top to bottom, we are going down, okay? So textures is asking for background. It will be progress bar textures dot arrows dot small or short, I don't know, dot down and dot background. This will be the background, and then I will select all of this and we say progress for the indicator. So that's if we are using a small. Otherwise, we want to do this whole thing, and here we return this dot, what was the name? Long. I don't want the return keyword here. I don't need the semicolon there. Okay, so if we are using a small arrow, we are top to bottom, so we are using the arrow down, and that's it. Now, if we are not top to bottom, means that we are going up. So I just need to change these to be up in all 4 places. Otherwise, if we are horizontal, let me get this, because all of them are almost similar. And instead of going up, we are left to right. So we want to use the arrow right. And if you look, the arrow right is just right short. So finding it under widgets, progress arrow, either one of them, it's left to right. So we want the right keyword there. Otherwise, if we are not left to right, then we are pointing the arrow toward left, and that's the whole thing. I could possibly change this thing to a bigger ternary, but I'm trying to avoid really complex things. If you want to, you can make it a ternary. So if that's the case, do that. Otherwise, do this. And this will be a return here, and no more returns here. And what's wrong with you now? A semicolon at the end. It shouldn't be there. So again, if you so want, you can make it like this, and it should work actually without a hiccup. Same for here. So we say return direction blah. Here we say, if that's the case, do this, otherwise do that, and remove that semicolon, and the whole thing will work. And I should remove that curly brace there. If we are not falling into one of these 2 critical conditions, we should return just a builder. It will never happen, because the widget orientation is either vertical or horizontal, and either way we will fall into one of these if statements, okay? So that's our arrow progress. But as you saw, beside arrow progress, we have different things. For example, blaze fuel. Well, blaze fuel is just a horizontal bar. That should go left to right, but I can use the bidirectional thing. So I will copy this whole thing. And here I will say that use blaze progress. So we don't have a vertical here. And either way, we don't go for the direction, because we don't care about the direction. And we don't have any one of these actually. Okay, so we simply say that, hey, we don't care about any one of these. I'm derping there, because either way, if it's left to right or right to left, we don't have any arrows there. So return this. Now I can do something here, and I think I forgot to add them here, or I have the direction and orientation. Well, I'm not going to set the direction, but I can set the orientation, because we want to make sure that the orientation is horizontal. So dot orientation is widget orientation horizontal. For the direction, this is becoming a headache for me right now. Boolean is right to left, and we say dot direction direction, if it is right to left, then we want the widget direction right to left. Otherwise, we want the widget direction left to right. Now I will have an overload for this guy that accepts nothing, and I will just return this.use blade progress with false, because the vanilla behavior is left to right for this progress. Okay, after the blaze we have bubbles, but bubbles again have up, down, left, right. So let's escape that one. Then we have fire. We don't want anything here. Orientation is actually vertical, and we are sure that we want to go bottom to top, because that's how fire animation will show up. So bottom to top, and this is use fire progress. Take a look at here, blaze fuel, and this one should be blaze fuel. Here we want the fire background and fire progress. Then we have tube. Now tube is something, again, short and tall version, but the animations should go from top to bottom, I think, because it is indicating that some fluid is passing from this input at the top and rotates around the tube and goes out from bottom. So I will copy this and use tube progress. However, I will have a boolean that says the same thing. Use a small tube instead of arrow. Then we say return, use a small tube. If that's the case, we want the orientation to be vertical, but here we will go top to bottom. And here we will have tube.short.background, tube.short.progress. And I will copy this whole thing and put colon. And again, instead of short, we will go with tall. A little bit of code cleanup. Finally, we have the bubbles. Again, bubbles are up, down, left, and right. Let's go with the up, because that's what you got used to see in the brewing stand. So it will start from the bigger circle going all the way to the smaller circle. Now, if we go down, it's reversed. If we go left, it's like pointing an arrow toward left, and right is pointing an arrow toward right. I will get this one for the arrow progress. I will paste it. However, now we are not using any boolean here for smaller or bigger versions. All we have to do is just sending this one and just sending that one. So if we are top to bottom and vertical, then we want to go down. But here we use bubbles, not the blaze fuel, bubbles. Otherwise, here we have something that I think I messed up. Oh no, it was a small one. Okay, if we are vertical and top to bottom, then we go down. Otherwise, we want to go up. If we are horizontal left to right, then we want it to be right for the bubbles. And finally, when we are going the other way around, we just need to replace the bubbles. Okay, so we have the tube, we have the arrow, fire, bubbles, and blaze. And we covered almost, I think, all of our progress bars from textures. So we have arrow progress, we have use blaze progress, fire, tube, and arrow. And why is it arrow progress? Use bubble progress. Let's review our code. We already assigned textures. We assigned the textures, background, UNV, X, Y, width and height, orientation, and suppliers, and everything else. Good. Now we want the build method. So we say public. That returns a progress bar widget, and we call it build. All we are doing here, returning new progress. Now we have X, Y, then the direction, then the orientation, then the background X, background Y, background width, and background height. Then we have background U, background V, and then background size width, background height width, then the indicator X, indicator Y, indicator width, indicator height, indicator U, indicator V, indicator size width, indicator size height, and finally the identifiers for the background, so background texture and the indicator texture. Then we have the amount supplier and the capacity supplier. And that's it. This is our builder. Time for the progress bar. So let's close the builder. It's wrong here. It says X and Y. Make final. Yes, sure. Okay, now we want to make sure that we are a widget, and I'm lazy as hell, so I will go back up and copy these two. Boom, and we just need to implement our methods. Now we say set X, this dot X equals to X, this dot Y equals to Y. We return return the x, we return the y, and for width, we return the width, actually background width, I think, yes, and background height. Then for each children, we will do nothing. And finally, we can focus on our render. Now, I will open that color ingredient widget and go into the render, copy paste all other than the draw tooltip. Okay, let's see. We get the supplier, we get the amount and capacity suppliers, then we go with the values, then the percentage. Now here we go with height. We don't have height. Now this is the progress height, so indicator height, don't forget that one. Then if we are bottom to top, again we go with indicator height, and this is the indicator width, this is the indicator width, and this is indicator height. Now these are just the values for the progress. Okay, so if I want to, we can say screen utils dot draw texture. Now for the context, we have the context. For the texture, we go with the indicator texture, and then if we look, we are not adding this dot blah. Okay, we actually have the fill things. So we go with fill x, fill y. Then what is the next param? It's not showing up. Let me see. Let's use the indicator one. Oh, we are adding x. Sorry. Well, for the progress, we had done it already, I think, didn't we? X plus blah or x. I need to change it. I'm sure of it. If we are using it, this is the offset. So are we using it here? We are using it here. The y, let's go with vertical first. This is x. We are not using the indicator offsets. So we say indicator x here, and we go with indicator y here so that we get the offsets. Here we are doing y plus indicator height, but here we say indicator y in both cases to get the offset. And here x plus indicator x in both cases. And height and width are just the things that should be. So this is x and y. Then we have the u and v. Thankfully, it's just that. So this is u and v. Then we should have width and height. And here is where the code inside here will become handy. So fill width and fill height. Okay, fill x plus that, fill y plus that. Then we have the indicator width and height as the last parameters. So this is our indicator. However, below the indicator, we want the background. So I will just copy this whole thing. Actually, you know what? I think I can get the code from this guy here. And now the problem is that, do we want to change things based on orientation here? Let's see. No matter where the top left is fixed in both cases, then the width and height would be okay. So I assume it's okay. I assume this is our final code. So we draw the background and we draw the indicator on top of it. Okay, the easiest way, the best way to test this is to go into our test mode. So to do that, I will remove the GUI from my local Maven, and now coming back, I will publish to local Maven. As it's publishing, I will go into my test mode, remove this GUI so that I'm not wasting time for that indexing and stuff like that. At the same time, the run is working. So as we see, both of them finished at the same time. Then I go with test mode and sync it. Now that it's finished, we can focus on our drawings. So for drawing, I will use the renderer from this one, I think, because here I'm adding the indicators, and I will copy one of them. Actually, let me think. You're starting from 5 to 5. Okay, I think I want something here. Yeah, the amount and capacity, and then frames. So let's go with these three. We don't need you, we don't need you, we don't need you. So on top, I will add them. Of course, these are just amount now and frames. Now, inside our init, we are not doing anything else. Oh, we are doing it inside init, huh? And inside the render, we are just adding the frames and other things. So let's get that inside the render. We are just adding things. Of course, we don't have tank amount. We just have the amount and that one, and that's one of them. Okay, so now we need to add our stuff inside init. I forgot that one. Okay, let's go with the drawable. Let's do it here. So we say add a drawable, new progress bar widget with the x of 5 and 5. And what's wrong with you now? Oh, well, at the end, we want the build to be called. What's wrong with you? Dot builder that, and we want to call the build. Now we say dot, let's go with arrow progress, and for use small, we say true. That should set everything up for us, isn't it? Because why did I close that? Oh, we want the amount supplier and capacity supplier. So dot amount supplier just sets, returns the amount, and dot capacity supplier sends the capacity. Okay, other than that, for the arrows, I need to set the orientation and direction. So orientation is the widget orientation. Let's go with vertical first, and the direction, let's go with widget direction top to bottom. This is the classic top to bottom arrow, but the small version. And using arrow progress, actually I need to set them after this so that we know the orientation and direction. As you see, we are using orientation direction, so we set the background and progress. Okay, I think it will work. So let's run the client on debug and see what happens in the game. Okay, let's see what we have. So, oh, look at that. What's that? Okay, that's why you are testing things, guys. Okay, let's see. The arrow is working. The location is not correct. That's okay. I can just add things to the X and Y. Let's put it there. So the X will be this dot X plus 5, this dot Y plus 5. However, I wonder why is it showing this little arrow from there? It's just duplicating itself. Okay. Wow, look at that. So we say fill height, we are vertical, equals to percentage indicator height. That's the correct thing. Then fill X equals to X plus indicator X. So that's the offset for the X. If you are bottom to top, we go with the Y plus offset, then we go down to indicator height, and then we go back up. Otherwise, Y plus indicator Y, and then fill width equals to indicator width. Unless I'm doing something wrong here on the arrows, and that would be, well, we are using arrow, we are vertical, top to bottom. Let's take a look at these. 15 by 22, it's 16 by 32. And by the way, now you're seeing the progress of debugging something. So we are progress arrow, we are short down, and that's the texture. Let's take up the Photoshop. I stopped the video because I had to recheck the size of the textures. It was okay. Then inside our widget, I just commented out the section to draw the arrow, the progress. I just keep the background, and right now, none of this calculation matters. All I want to see is why do I get multiple arrows? It's weird. Okay, let's go into the game, and now I just have one, okay, and that's it. Honestly, I think I will draw the background first before doing any crazy math and stuff like that, because if the supplier and capacity supplier is equal null, okay, we want the background, we don't want to have the progress. So the progress is messing things up here. Let's see, I'm drawing the indicator texture from fill X, fill Y, and then the indicator U and V. Then, why am I adding fill X here, and why am I adding fill Y there? That's wrong. Wow, that was the reason. Okay, again, let me show you the headache. Stop the game, delete the Maven local file for the GUI, let it finish. Publish to Maven, it's finished. Delete the GUI, let it do its job. You should make sure that the GUI file is not here. And then finally, resync the Gradle. That's the whole process that you need to do over and over until you are sure that everything is working. Now, Gradle is finished. It's not showing up. Simply right click, reload from the disk. Wait until, again, the Minecraft detection is finished and you see the GUI folder here. And now you should be able to relaunch the run client. Take note, if you run debug mode right now, it's on GUI publish to Maven local. Don't forget to switch back to run client. I think it's okay now. That was terrible. I was stretching the whole thing, both on X and Y. There we go, guys. Our arrow is behaving properly now, as you see. Now, from now on, I just want to test things. So instead of adding more drawables here inside our widget, I will just fix things. For example, I want a small vertical that goes from bottom to top. Okay, I will rebuild it. And now if I open, oh, this is wrong. Wow. Wow. Okay, this is wrong. Wow, I never test that with arrows. Okay, this is why you test, guys. So let's track it back down. It's bottom to top. So we go with indicator Y, that's okay. We go with indicator height. Oh, you know what? The U and V now needs to change because we are going from bottom to top. Yeah, we will have fill U, fill V. And here we will say fill U is actually the indicator U. That's okay. But in this case, fill V, we'll use the same calculation, but instead of indicator Y, we will go with indicator V, and we don't want to add Y Good. So we start with V and we go with indicator height. So we go bottom and then we come back up, and otherwise is indicator V. And when we are drawing it, we will use fill U and fill V. This time around, we'll say fill V is actually indicator V, but for fill U, we'll use the same math. The only difference is that we are not plussing the X and we are using indicator U, and that should be it. Honestly, this was a funny surprise. It's working, but it's not working. It's drawing the height properly. It's not starting from bottom to top. Honestly, if I think about it, maybe we should do this U and V in the textured indicator, because right now my textures are just same vertically, same color, same texture, just repeated itself. However, if there is some funny texture that has different coloring, things will change there. So if this works, I will copy these calculations into the textured widget, this one, because here again, we need to calculate that U and V. Actually, yeah, I think we should do it here again. Although we are not horizontal, so we just get the calculations for this side and it would be complete. There we go. There we go. There we go. Now that we finally made it working, I hope that if we tweak stuff from being vertical to horizontal, from being bottom to top, being left to right, things should work. Yes, thankfully. And then if we are right to left, things should work, as you see. Now, the only other test would be for, go from top to bottom, but instead of a small, let's use the big one. So this is false, and this is our long arrow. Again, from bottom to top, it's working, and from vertical to horizontal, and finally 2 more tests, left to right, it should work. There we go. And finally right to left. Okay. That's our arrows, okay? Now, let's see. Instead of use arrows, let's do it this way. I will comment these 2 lines. Hopefully, no, wait. I will do it this way. Dot use blaze progress. Hopefully, I can hot swap it. Yes. And that's our blaze going from left to right, okay? And if I say true, means that I'm now moving right to left, and now I'm moving right to left. Nice. Instead of blaze, if I use bubble progress, it's going from horizontal right to left. It will be left to right now. Let's try the vertical and top to bottom. It's working. And finally, the bottom to top, the vanilla way of things for the bubble columns. And again, it's perfectly fine. Now, instead of bubbles, let's try the other one. And it will be, let's see, we use the arrow, blaze, bubbles, fire. Now, take note, I'm not changing this vertical. Let's do it actually. Let's make it horizontal. And let's go from, I don't know, left to right. That doesn't make sense for fire, okay? But the fire will be okay because we are setting these 2 inside the fire progress to make things work. Now, instead of fire, the last one that we have is our tube progress. And it says use a small. Let's start with false. Actually, let's start with true. I need to do overload for that. I'm not sure. Okay. Then tube is vertical actually, and it's top to bottom. So it doesn't matter what I'm setting here. And here is our tube being filled up, as you see. This last bit is not pretty, but honestly, that's all we can do here. We can't just rotate the texture. If we could do that, I would do that. So let's try the big tube, and that's it. We have a tube that is getting filled from top to bottom. So all of our progresses are now working, are now behaving. The only remaining thing, let's close the game, is to go back inside here and get this whole calculation from here to here, and actually the vertical part, into our textured indicator. And let's go with this, okay? So we don't have orientation or direction. Actually, we should have, because a texture may be horizontal, and I didn't took that into the consideration when I was actually developing this library for the first time. So it's easy fix. It's really fast copy pasting things. So that's that. Then where we are setting the orientation and direction here, then we go into the builder. That's that, into the builder, add it there, then amount, capacity, orientation, and direction. Okay, and these. Now we need to make sure that we are calling it in the builder constructor right after the X and Y, like so. But We have more things to do. Let's see what we have here. We say background textures, and then is energy. For energy widget, the direction should be always widget direction bottom to top, because we are filling it from bottom to top. Now, other than this one tweak here, I think we don't have any other, we don't have any other defaults that I can use, and that would be it. However, on top, in the render method now, we need to do the bar height. Where is the bar height? Let's see. Oh, well, wait a minute. I did do the calculations. Okay, now I need to do this, actually, instead of that draw. Boom. And what's wrong with you? Fill X. Okay. Because we are actually, we are always vertical or not. No, we may be horizontal. I'm derping. Okay. Copy this, paste it. So now we are assigning values all the time. Normally, we should be vertical on indicators like heat, I don't know, RPM, energy, gas. Those indicators are most of the time vertical, but sometimes in your UI design, you may need to squeeze things because you have too many things going on the GUI. So you may want to draw things horizontally. Okay, so that's that. And what's now? Oh, okay, orientation, and yeah, I forgot to add them. So this dot orientation equals to orientation. This dot direction equals to direction. Now, before I close the video, because now I'm sure this is working, we already have a confirmation. Before I close the video, let me talk a few seconds about using things like GitHub or AI Assistant from IntelliJ IDEA or many other code assistants. I had seen 30 Vortis saying that using Copilot makes people depending on that. And I was like, okay, I will not get dependent. But guess what? Now that I turned that off, actually I'm slower in coding. My speed dropped because now I'm waiting for the Copilot to show something for me so that I can hit enter or tab or things like that. And actually it's take time. And I just noticed it right now. So in my opinion, the only way that we may use things like GitHub Copilot or any other coding assistant is for asking questions. So if you don't know something, of course, I disabled the plugin right now, so I can't show you. But if you have a question, for example, let's say that we want to make a tab interface, okay? Because right now we have tab textures. And I have a problem here. I really have a problem here. And that is, how can I add a slot in a tab? And when I'm switching the tab, I want to hide that slot. And this is an R&D that needs its own mini series in future. But no matter how much I looked into the vanilla code, I don't see any is visible or I don't know, hide or any other method on the slot that makes things work. So I need to figure something and I don't know where to begin with. Okay, of course I know, but let's hypothetically say that I don't know. I don't know where to begin with. That is when asking Copilot questions can be helpful. You are not depending on the code it's providing. You are getting help for the progress and the steps you need to do to get things started. And of course, you may have problems in the progress, so you may go back and ask questions. For example, in JiGui, if you recall in previous videos, we talked about this mixin. Well, this was not a solution that I came up with. I'm not that professional in using mixin. So I went into Copilot, and after giving him enough context, I asked, how can I solve this problem? And he did suggest some things that were not actually a real thing. However, at some point, he mentioned mixin, and I triggered the gun. I said, wait. If we can use the mixin, how is the progress? Explain things to me. And it started explaining things. And honestly, the rest was easy. So things like this is a good thing to have. However, I now have to agree with 30 Verti from my own experience. When you have Copilot on or AI Assistant on or any other coding assistant on, it makes your coding slower, especially if you have to type things in the IDE. Well, there is one programming software out there called Cursor that uses AI, and it's a totally different progress. It's called codeless programming. You just give prompt to it and it generates the whole solution for you. For example, I did use it actually for a template that I may use later for my wikis, and it's all JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. And guess what? I have absolutely zero knowledge of JavaScript or CSS, and my knowledge about HTML is nothing above 20%. If I show you the final product, you would be surprised that I had done it. Well, guess what? I didn't. The AI had done it. However, to make things finish, I had to constantly ask questions from AI, giving him feedback that this didn't work, that didn't work, this part is problematic, that part is problematic, fix this, fix that. It took me 3 days, 3 whole days, but it had done it. However, programming Minecraft is not developing a static HTML website. For things like a static HTML website, AI can generate a lot more because it has enough concept and it has context to work on. However, for modding Minecraft, the context is not huge and the model was not trained enough to solve that problem for you. If you want to use something like that, I don't know, maybe you want to train your own model dedicatedly on Minecraft with Yarn and Fabric and produce as many mods on Fabric as possible. And who knows, maybe someday you will have an AI that is professional enough to help you on modding Minecraft using Fabric. However, until then, don't get dependent on this. I mean, if you ever watched 30 Vortis streams, you see that he just depends on Copilot a lot. And after 2 or 3 episodes, like 9 hours later in coding at least, he comes back to the code and he wonders why it's like this. Why did I do that? How did I write this code? Why this thing is here? And guess what? He didn't do any of that. Copilot did. And he just hit the tab, run the game. Okay, it's working. Well, guess what? In the next update, it's not working anymore. Anyway, if you want to write a mod for Minecraft, I highly suggest turn off Copilot for code compilation and just use the chat, And for using the chat, you don't even need to install these plugins here. You can directly use the Copilot on GitHub website in a browser. And honestly, it's much nicer than having a small chat box in your IDE. Now that I took it out of my system, finally we have our texture widget. And I think for time being, I'm done with JiGui. Of course, I have few other things in mind. For example, one is that LED alarm light so that it can toggle on and off. And the other thing is actually a solution for a tab widget. However, I don't want to do them right now because honestly, I think I got this library where I wanted to. The only thing remaining is for me to, add more buttons and different things to test to make sure things work. For example, this slot icon texture on things like, I think powder was wrong. The texture file was wrong. So when I test the file, I got that checkerboard, purple checkerboard, a missing texture. So I need to make sure that my texture parameters and the texture address is correct for everything. So far, I finished everything other than vanilla. And vanilla is big. Honestly, it's big. And I did test few of things here, but not all of that. And I need to sit back and work my way toward testing everything. And when this class is being drawn on my test mod, that's the end of JiGui for time being until much later when I finished everything in my library system. Then I have time to come back and do some R&D on how to add widgets for, I don't know, maybe tabs, maybe an alarm light or anything else. However, as you notice, I have energy, fluid, gas, heat, molten pipe network, pressure, and machina to finish so that my library gets to its ready state. Of course, if you want to have inventory GUI, it's already in a ready state, but I didn't publish it to Maven. So if you go into Maven repository, it's totally empty right now. But the moment I start finishing these, I will add them to Maven repository. And the reason I did drop everything from Maven was that I was going back and forth in this GBase and then Jiralib and then GUI and then inventory. I had to go constantly back and forth, and it didn't make sense to keep things in repository when they are not ready. Anyway, in the next video, I think I will finish the test mod between the episodes, and I will come back and start working on my G energy because as much as I know and I'm concerned, the J inventory is finished. So we will come back and work on G energy and G fluid. By the way, now that I remember, I lied. I have something to cover, and that's one main to do. So I have to add 2 more textures here and then work on these abstractions. So one more video for JiGui and we are done with it. If you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on that bell so that when I publish a new video, you will get informed. Have fun, everyone. Bye.